grandfather Cravens?
That's Elizabeth Mahon Cravens, and your grandfather was Henry Lee Cravens. And they married in 1919, and I was born, I was her niece, the youngest niece
Right.
of her only sister. And
And India's.
Yes.
Right.
India.
Okay.
And I was the youngest of 5 living in the country with my mother and father and sister and brothers. Excuse me. And Aunt Elizabeth had not yet had your father, H.L., and or Henry, as he's known as with his friends. And they took a liking to me and would want me to visit them and come and stay a while in Nashville at their home. And I was about 2 years old when I started this. And
You were about 2 when you started going to stay over there?
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Just a little while.
Right.
I don't know the time. And Uncle Lee liked me, I think. He gave me a lot of slack about if the roads were rough in our country where I lived. He would say, "This is Martha's road." And he gave me a hard time. He thought, well, as time went on, school was fixing to start for me to go to school, and all the others older than I had their own way of transportation to country school. But my mother wasn't well at that time, so Aunt Elizabeth persuaded Mother for me to go and live with them.
Now this was first grade?
6th grade.
Oh, 6th grade, okay.
No. I was about 7.
Okay.
When I first started in the
Okay.
first grade in Nashville. And then it was about that time Henry was born, I guess. And I learned to babysit.
I bet.
But when I would go home with them on a Sunday afternoon, ready to go to school. And I'd go in, I'd hear the old trains at Shelby Park go on the tracks. And it was the saddest thing. I'd start crying, Well, I got over it right quick. But I liked school. I was able to walk to school. No part of transportation was the problem.
Uh-huh.
And then we lived in East Nashville.
Uh-huh.
And at that time, and that was my grandmother's home. I think it was at that time. And then later on, Uncle Lee bought it, and so we lived there until I was about in the 3rd grade, and we moved to. We lived on 16th Avenue for a while, and
Now, did you still go home on the weekends?
then I went home on the weekends.
Okay.
And Aunt Elizabeth thought I'd be a great help to her because she was hard of hearing.
Right.
I could answer the phone, in which she didn't do very well. She couldn't hear very well.
Right. And that's because she had been sick as a child, right? And that.
No, she worked during the World War II
Uh-huh.
at Old Hickory. I think that's right.
World War I.
Yes. I made a mistake.
It's all
It
right.
was World War I.
Uh-huh.
It was 1918. And she had flu, and it was raging. It was just
Right.
an epidemic of flu. And that caused her to lose her hearing.
Right.
And she, anyway, back to our moving days, they sold the house on Shelby, and then while H.L. was still a baby, they bought a home on Sweetbriar.
Right, on
Bill
Sweetbriar,
Hall,
uh-huh.
And lived there for a while. It was during the Depression, and the people that had bought the Shelby Street house couldn't pay for it. So they had to take it back. They had to go back, move back to Shelby
Mm-hmm.
Street. And then, see, they had sold the Sweetbriar house.
Right.
So the same thing happened to the Sweetbriar house. You know, the people that bought that went broke.
Uh-huh.
So we moved back to Sweetbriar, and there we stayed.
Okay.
And
Look, you got some water here.
Okay.
Now you're refreshed.
yeah, maybe that'll help. So I used to stay with H.L. He was just a baby, and I'd roll him around his carriage, you know. Now H.L., we called him H.L.
Right.
But after he married and went to school, he went to school and married, and his friends called him Shorty.
Shorty, right.
And they called him Henry. He's known as Henry
Yeah.
now.
And I call him Dad, so, yeah.
That's right. That's right.
He's even a granddaddy.
Yeah.
Too many names.
Yeah. I get lost in the generation.
Yeah.
I really do. Now, what else do you want to know?
Well, okay, a few funny things. Dad used to talk about Aunt Florence that would come visit,
Oh,
that she was a
yes.
character.
Yes. Well, it was kind of sad. She had never married. She remained a Spencer, and she owned homes one after another. But she had a realtor that just did her in. She was, you know, she was so gullible that she thought this house would be better than the other.
Yes.
You know. So she lived, and then of course she didn't have anything, no
Right.
family, and but us.
Right.
So she would visit. She'd come to Aunt Elizabeth's house, stay a while, and then she would go to my home in the country. And she'd always bring her clothes in a paper sack, and which that was no credit to anybody. But she just, I don't know, she thought she would stay long, you know.
Right.
And she would bring fruit. She always brought bananas. Do you remember that? Yeah. Well, but we loved her dearly. She was funny. She had a lot of wit about her, and then she'd make us kind of tired too. But
Stay with us until she got mad. Then
stayed
she'd
with
go
us
stay
till we got
somebody
married.
else.
That's
Yeah, then
right.
she'd go stay somewhere else.
That's right.
Yeah.
Take out walking.
But she was different, all right.
Describe Granddaddy for me. What was he like?
Oh, he was a good-looking little boy. And I was looking at some pictures that your mom had today.
Yeah.
We all thought a lot of H.L. And he'd come visit us in the summertime in the country after school was out.
Yeah.
And I said something, I can't remember now what, but he got mad at me. And that summer was a drought, no water for the cattle that my dad had.
Yeah.
And we helped drive them to the creek. It was about a mile away, I reckon. Well, H.L. got mad at me for something, and I cannot for this day. Maybe you remember, I don't know.
Well, I don't know what I'm mad about, but
Well,
I'm mad.
and you started out walking.
I started out walking.
Uh-huh. Well, some way or another, we coached you to
About
come back.
about 3-4 miles over there to the creek.
I guess it was. Not that far.
And then 18 more
What'd
to
you
home.
say?
I was going to walk home, I guess.
I don't know how old you were, but anyway,
I kept thinking I was going to step on a rattlesnake.
you did. Well,
Instead, the bull tried to get me out of one of the fields.
oh, I
over there.
remember that.
You remember that crazy old bull?
Oh, yes, he'd see us. And
Charged the fence.
just a little one lane, one,
Yeah, one road, just
yeah,
two
just
dirt
narrow.
strips and the weeds that high in the middle.
That's right. Just one lane. It was down the country lane.
When I came out there, They live so far back in the country, Kay, that I used to say you had to have your own tomcat.
The dogs.
Every time Dad started across that creek, he'd get stuck.
Oh, mercy. In later years, I wanted George to see where we used to live.
Yeah.
That was my husband, George, and he was, so we went across that creek and got stuck. The water started coming in the car, and I didn't know because I've been away from there for years. I didn't know that they weren't crossing it anymore, fording, you call it, fording the creek. But now they have a bridge across it.
Well, that takes all the fun out of it.
But anyway, my husband had to go get a tractor.
Well, I'll tell you
Borrow
what,
somebody, to pull us out.
tell you what Dad did one time. He was going out there on Sunday morning. He got stuck, and the water was coming in over the floorboard.
Yeah.
And he waited out, went down there to church, and got the congregation of church come pull us out of there. He ended up to the service. I don't know what kind of church it was. It was up there. You could hear him singing.
Yeah, it's Church of Christ.
Yeah, well, he went up there and broke up the service.
I never heard that one.
I never did either.
I didn't either.
That was a new one.
What do you remember about Uncle Lee or your dad? Tell me about him, since I never knew him.
Well, I tell you, Uncle Lee was the best man. My mother used to say he was the best man that ever lived.
Yeah.
But anyway, she thought so much of it. And I can remember one time, he would always get lost.
Uh-huh.
If we
Horse
were
play.
going anywhere, we'd end up in
Is that right?
the awfulest
You didn't get that
neighborhood.
from him.
Awfulest neighborhood, and we never went anywhere before when we got started home. Ended up somewhere,
He got lost going to work one morning because of smog in town.
And then one time we went to Old Hickory, just driving. He would always, it was his duty to take Aunt Elizabeth for a drive every Sunday afternoon.
Is that right?
There was never a Sunday that I don't guess we didn't go for a drive. And we started over the bridge from the west side of town where we lived, I guess, at that time, where they lived at that time, and crossed the river, Cumberland River, I'm sure, to Old Hickory.
Right.
And that bridge just swung back and forth.
Oh my gosh.
I was scared to death. And when I first was going out there,
That's
I
fine.
guess it was when he had a T-Ford, and I was able to stand up it was just a two-door car,
Yeah,
you know.
there's no T-model.
And anyway, I was able to stand up, and the windshield at that time, you manually rolled it out.
Right.
You know, or
No electric windows, right? Yeah.
And that's how we got cooled. And I had a dress on that was full, to stand out. And had a little duck applique on it for the pocket, And I always stood up. And
But now,
that was before you were born.
did you
Talking
make?
about that time I ran away from country, from farm out there in Hillsborough. My name was Elizabeth's sister.
Yeah,
Came at me in that old touring car.
really?
Old black car had eyes and glass windows and
Yeah.
vinyl, whatever the
Right.
predecessor to vinyl
Oh,
was.
Chevrolet.
And she came flapping down the road and got me in there. I didn't want to go back.
So I stayed with them till I was a senior in high school.
Well, then you were like a sister
I
to
used
Dad.
to,
Yeah.
I used to ride with Uncle Lee. He worked at Baptist Sunday School Board
Right.
on 8th Avenue. And Hume Park High School was on the corner of 8th and Broad.
Right.
And he'd let me out there And then I would ride home on a streetcar, had
I see.
streetcars then. And, let's see,
So he went to the Baptist church and grandmother went to the Church of Christ, right? On
Well,
37?
yes, I guess so.
Right. Because you came after church, right?
No, he
Yes.
did not go to
Yeah.
Baptist church, he went to Methodist church.
Oh, he went to the Methodist church.
No, wait a minute.
Belmont
I did-
Baptist,
Well, he kind of visited, I thought
He
at
did go to
one
Baptist
time.
church,
Sunday school.
Sunday school.
Every Sunday.
And the guy preached his funeral, said he was Methodist.
Well, he joined the Methodist church as young.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I didn't know that until the preacher told me.
Well, so tell me about Aunt Elizabeth then. What was she like? Or Mom?
Well, to me, she was easy to get along with, and I think she loved me, and I loved her.
She did.
I had a lot of mamas, seemed like, because when sister was 8 years older than my oldest sister,
Liz.
Liz,
Right.
yeah, he called her Liz. She was 8 years older, as I said. She loved me, I guess, just like I was hers.
Right.
And then even after she started teaching school, had her own money, why she'd take me shopping with her. And the clerk would say, yes, see how your mama likes this, you know, whatever. And it's that.
She didn't appreciate that, probably.
Well, she never showed it.
Yeah.
Anyway. And Elizabeth took me to my first movie, and that was when they didn't talk. You had to read it, and she sat
Right.
there and read the screen.
Is that
script.
right for you?
I
Huh.
remember that so well.
You remember the Knickerbocker Theater had headsets for deaf people? They don't have that today.
And that's so.
Many theaters. There were certain rows where you got a headset and you could listen to the thing.
Really?
You hard of hearing.
Hmm.
Only the Knickerbocker up there on Capitol Boulevard. Where it was.
And when I didn't go home on the weekend, why,
Okay.
I learned how to clean house. She was a real good house cleaner.
Yeah, well, he did get that from her.
Yeah.
That's why he goes around and straightens all my pictures.
That was definitely inherited.
And
too.
unfortunately, yeah, I
Passed
drive
on down.
I drive my family crazy with it. Yeah.
Yes, you do.
So, yeah, I
Well,
got
I
that.
think a lot of people, you know, like that. Because you can't help but see, you know, across the room. You want to correct it right now.
Yeah, see, that's me. And the rest of them could care less.
That's right.
Well, what was it like growing up in the Depression?
Oh, well, I didn't realize it, really.
Really?
We didn't know how bad off we were. did we?
No. We didn't suffer because we lived in the country.
Right.
We had all the food we needed, you know. And my dad made butter and sold it.
Right.
And I guess that's what carried sister through BGA, Battleground Academy.
Oh, is that
And
where she went?
She was the last of the girls.
Is
at
that right?
time. But now it's coeducational, so,
Uh-huh.
you know,
BGA,
girls went
right.
back. But she graduated in 29. That was the last class that the girls
That's interesting.
graduated at.
Now, what about, okay, did you all go out to where the house where Liz lived? Okay, was that your family's home?
Yes.
Okay, so that's
That
where
was
you were.
during the Depression.
Right. Okay.
The house
So all the barn and all that land out there on Carruthers Road, that's where you grew up.
No.
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 No. I grew up
Later on.
in called
Okay.
Hillsboro, but now they call it Lepus Fork.
Oh, okay.
It's about 10 miles south of Franklin, southwest of Franklin. And Daddy bought that about 1923, somewhere along there. I was born out on, it's called Liberty Pike at the very end.
Uh-huh.
It runs parallel with Galleria now.
Oh, is that right?
And they've named it Carruthers Parkway.
Uh-huh.
And that passes right by the old Carruthers family cemetery.
Okay.
So I was just a little girl when we moved to Hillsborough.
Uh-huh.
It was a big old 2-story house with plenty of room, you know, and
Oh, shit.
we lived there, and my oldest brother died in 1925, I think. And then shortly thereafter, the house burned, the big house burned to the ground.
Oh, is that right?
First day of March, the mother had built a fire on the big old range, and the house had wood shingles on it, and the March winds just
Is that right?
blew it to the, it burned to the ground.
Mm.
Well, whenever anybody wanted anything stored, they'd want to take it to India's house to
I
have
see.
it stored, you know.
Dad had a lot of stuff out there.
Yeah, and it hurt Mother so bad because other people lost their things too.
Right.
But a few pieces were saved.
Mhm.
I guess Edward, my brother, was about 12 years old, and I was 7. And I wasn't at home. I was at Nashville, you know, going
Right.
to school. And but the old sewing machine was saved, and Edward saved. He did a lot of the saving.
Now I remember a table that you showed me that you had a hidden drawer that you hid the money from. You said in the Civil War.
This was what they call an old card table.
Uh-huh.
And it's, now Aunt Elizabeth had that at the time because Mother had let her have it. And Aunt Elizabeth refinished it, had it refinished.
Mhm.
Well, the drum of it, it just has one drum in the middle, had a place for the silver. And
Right.
they stored the silver during the Civil War.
Right.
That's where
I remember you showing me
at the
that.
old home place, where Centennial High School is now.
Uh-huh.
And that's where they lived, see, my
Right.
grandmother Causey,
Uh-huh.
grandmother Walters.
Is that right?
She was a Causey. Then, let's see, back up, what was else I was telling you about?
Oh, you were talking about another piece of furniture that Edward had
Oh.
saved.
A desk,
Right.
and it's one like it at Sam Davis's home. It's one of those that, it's a table, and then the top part of it, the desk part, where you write, lets down from
Uh-huh.
the top. And he saved that. And he saved some drawers from a chest of drawers. Kind of maple, I
Right.
guess. They weren't real good furniture. It was good enough.
Yeah.
But he saved those by just pulling them out and throwing them out.
Is that
of the
right?
House. And when the house, when they rebuilt, they built a new house back
Uh-huh.
in the same spot. Daddy had the contractor to make a space in the upstairs bedroom
Right.
to put those drawers in.
Is that right?
Uh-huh.
That's interesting. Well, can the two of you think of just any funny stories? It'd be great to pass down when you were kids, things that happened.
Well, I can remember a picture that we have, and you probably have seen it, of Uncle Lee and Aunt Elizabeth, and it seemed like H.L. was just a little fella, and we all dressed up real protective of chiggers, and went blackberry hunting. We picked blackberries.
Is that right?
And the picture is so funny. Uncle Lee has an old hat on his head. Have you seen that?
I don't remember that picture enough.
And it's real silly looking, you know. But we had insect repellent on, and we, you know.
Looked like you were going to fight nature, huh?
Right.
So, what about the time you hit her with the yo-yo?
Well, she doesn't remember it. I better not tell her. She'd get mad again. I know I'd done something during the day. She was babysitting me. And she told the folks what I'd done, I guess. So as soon as they left, I got my yo-yo out, swung around my head 2 or 3 times. Whap! One that didn't hurt her bad.
Well, I can remember when they were demonstrating the yo-yos over on the corner drugstore.
Yeah, had Hawaiians do it.
Yeah,
Filipinos
yes.
Filipinos did it.
Really?
Yeah.
To show kids how to do it so they
Yeah,
learn
they
them?
come around, have 2 or 3 of those Dunkin' yo-yos.
Oh, yeah. Walk the dog and
Yeah, walk
around
the
the
dog.
world.
Yeah,
Well,
Baby in the cradle.
Yeah.
yeah.
I think they could do more than Roy.
Well, Roy pretty good for an old
Yeah.
fellow,
Gee.
Well,
So, I don't know.
Well,
I can probably think of
but
something.
he used to have a drugstore at the corner there by Clemens School.
Yeah. That's when
And
they had
that's where
fountain.
it, huh?
That's when they had the fountain where you could buy an ice
Yeah.
cream cone.
Yeah, or you could get root beer out of the keg.
oh, really?
Cost 3 cents straight, 5 cents with a head on it. Of course, with a head on it, you got less root beer.
Right, but it was more
Well, we didn't
fun.
know that. They had a pinball scene in there. Sold cigarettes to the kids for a penny apiece. Had the Filipino out front with the yo-yo. Little bitty old corner
Right.
drugstore there.
Those weren't real cigarettes.
See what-
Well, you would know,
Candy.
I wouldn't.
The secret's out.
About a dime a pack or a penny apiece.
Gee. How
I'll
was
tell you
that?
another, that little old Robertson, the grocery store, whatever it was, on the edge of Waverly Belmont, sold kids cigarettes for a penny
Really?
apiece.
Now, Dad, didn't you go to school with the guy that played Sergeant Carter? Wasn't he in your
Yeah,
class?
he never remember his name. You remember mine?
Vince was his name on
Vince was his
TV.
name.
I don't know, I don't remember.
I don't know.
I can't call it either. Anyway, we'll remember it later.
It's one played Sergeant on Gomer Pyle.
On
Yeah,
Gomer
he
Pyle.
played that sergeant on Gomer Pyle.
Okay.
And I said something to his sister one time. I said, that guy looks so familiar. She said, you ought to be familiar too. You used to get in a fight with him every day if going home from school. They'd fight up in the churchyard. He lived on Beechwood and I lived on Sweetbriar. We always fought Beechwooders.
Or was it a region boy?
No, I wasn't regional. They were on the outside.
Oh,
This guy actually lived on Elmwood, but he'd come down there and we'd fight in churchyard and he'd go home that way and I'd go home down the alley.
well, I don't know. Is that Billy Wright?
Huh?
You knew Billy Wright, didn't you?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I'll see Ruth Wright when we have the Clemens reunion.
Yeah.
We have it every 2 years. They have it every 2 years, and I just became aware of it 2 years ago.
And you went to school with Dinah Shore, right?
At Hume Falls.
Right.
She must have been, she was a little ahead of me because having gone to school late, starting to school late,
Uh-huh.
I was just about 2.5 years older than the class I was
Oh, really?
supposed to be. And that's happened to me all my life.
Is that
Even-
right?
Even George, my husband, was younger than I.
Because you didn't come from the country when it was time to start school? Is that what you mean?
That's right.
Really? I didn't know that.
So,
Hmm. Well, I don't want to tire you out. Is
no,
it?
I just don't know what else to say.
Okay. Well, this is great.
Nothing comes to my mind now, as you might imagine.
Can you think of anything else, Dad? Funny that. Well, so when you left into high school, then
I
that's
went
when you
to-
moved out, and you
I
went.
went to Peabody Demonstration School,
You
which
did.
is known as a university
Right.
school now.
And then is that when you met George? And
No, I didn't meet George until after I returned to Franklin to
Right.
live with my folks. And in 1935, I believe it was, we moved from Brentwood, with the Depression and everything, caused us to move out of our Hillsborough home and go to Brentwood.
Mhm.
Daddy rented a place in Brentwood, and we lived there. And now I don't know what I was going to say now. Lost my
You
train of
live practically
thought.
next door to Minnie Pearl there, didn't you?
Oh, I was going to talk about, she went to Belmont.
Yeah.
But back to Dinah Shore, we had auditorium programs, and first time I saw her, she was on the stage.
Oh,
singing.
really? Huh.
Singing. So I didn't graduate with her. I went to Peabody and finished my senior year. But I went back to Franklin and worked for an attorney. And then he was paying me such a low raise. First he paid me $30 a month, and then he increased it to 40. And then I
Wow,
told him,
a month?
I told him I couldn't. I had to do something else, you know.
$30 a
So he
month.
said, I'll get you a job at the bank, the Harpeth Bank. And his brother was president, even though he was in service at that time. It was about 1940. And anyway, I got a job there.
Wow.
And
Brooklyn
That's
makes
when I-
$30 and 2 babysitting jobs.
that's when I met Joe
Oh, is that right?
officially.
Well,
My first job paid 30 cents an hour.
30 cents an hour? How's that sound?
It's $12 a week, in case you want to figure it out.
Ugh.
But there wasn't any Social Security or taxes taken out of it.
The what?
Not at all.
And what was the job?
I worked in an automobile junkyard.
Doing what?
Sorting junk. Every once in a while I get sort tire reliners. You probably don't know what those are.
No, don't know those.
Back then couldn't afford a new tire. They bought an old tire to go inside of it.
Retread.
No, reliners.
Oh,
Retreads were expensive.
Well, guys, thank you. This will be great.
Anyway, so much for
Appreciate it.
nostalgia.
Yeah, that was good. Maybe we'll do this again next year. We can make it an ongoing episode thing. All right, signing off.